Welcome to the Writer's Way podcast, where stories breathe and authors reveal the paths that shape their prose. Each episode offers an intimate look into the minds behind the pages, uncovering the experiences, beliefs, and imagination that bring their work to life. Today's guest is Lynch Spainhour. Polly was born in Surry County, North Carolina, and graduated from Pinnacle High School in 1964. She later attended Winston-Salem Business College and worked at North Carolina Baptist Hospital until retiring in 2008. Her passion for writing grew through classes at Salem College, leading to recognition such as the Editor's Choice Award for her poem In the Path Not Taken. Her work has appeared in several anthologies, including Beyond the Stars and Poetic Voices of America. Polly also self-published Daisy's Rainbow's Dreams, a touching memoir about caregiving during her husband's battle with Alzheimer's, reflecting her resilience and compassion. Join host Jessica Wilkins as she sits down with Lynch Spainhour to uncover the soul behind The Color of Gray, Living and Dying with Alzheimer's, Types of Abuse and Sexual Relations. Sit back and relax.
I'm your host, Jessica Wilkins, and today we have the immense honor of speaking with Lynch Spainhour, the author of the deeply moving and honest memoir, The Color of Gray, Living and Dying with Alzheimer's. Now at 79, she brings decades of personal wisdom from her own caregiving journey to his courageous book, which explores not only the complexity of dementia, but also the taboos of abuse and intimacy in elder care. Polly, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're so welcome. I appreciate you. It's an honor to be interviewed and questioned about my journey.
Okay, Polly, you carry so much wisdom. What was the spark, that single moment or deeply felt realization that made you decide, now is the time that I must write this book?
I've kept a journal off and on for many years for my own benefit because I began noticing a difference when Ken was in his early 30s. And I thought, well, maybe it's just me. It appeared to be more and more just a difference in his personality. And I'm thinking, I knew I couldn't talk to anyone. And I started putting everything, writing it down. And more as time went on, I'm thinking, something's not right. And I thought, well, I need proof. I've got to write something down. And it just became a habit. The longer period of time, I'm just really searching, and putting it down on paper was my only outlet. And I knew if I didn't have something, if I could ever get him to go see a doctor, I wanted it to be true. As time went on and I started sharing what I was hearing with people who knew him, they didn't believe it. They questioned me. And it was very difficult. When he was finally diagnosed at the age of 51, it was like, whew, thank you. And it was very hard. Any caregiver knows exactly what I'm talking about. Something that you would not wish on your worst enemy. And it's very difficult to talk about because people's not been there, do not understand it. And it's different from the medical part of it. And when he was in the hospital, he was in and out of the hospital at different times, and he went through assisted living and finally the nursing home. And as he progressed, I thought it was, as the Lord was saying, you need to be more thorough. I started writing more in my journal. And seeing this could be done in his presence. And the last 6 months of his life, it was like I needed to write more and more. I didn't know why, but I would just write bits and pieces. Didn't care how I wrote it. I just wrote my thoughts and things that were taking place. I didn't worry about punctuation. I didn't worry about whether it was worded correctly. I was just getting my thoughts on paper. And closer to the end of his life, it was like God was saying, you really need to do something with what you have. You need to share it with other people. And of course, I really had never thought of doing a book. It had never crossed my mind. But after he passed away, it became more prevalent. So, it was a long journey.
Indeed, it is. Now, your title, The Color of Gray, is so evocative. Can you share with us what the gray represents in the context of Alzheimer's? Or is it about the moral ambiguity, the loss of clarity, or something else entirely?
I really, when I was searching for a title of the book, I went through several different names, and I had written poetry during that time, and it would come to me when I was driving to work, when I was coming home from work. Sometimes I was writing as I was driving, and I had one person say, "Oh, you must have been the one I met," and I wondered why they kept crossing the line. And we just laughed about it. But sometimes I would pull off on the side of the road and just stop, because if I didn't get it out, I lost it. And two, I like to play the piano. I'd go in the living room where the piano was, and I love to play. I still love to play. I'm not that good at it, but I just enjoy playing. And it got on his nerves, and I had to stop. So then with the poetry, I could do it whenever. And I just wrote whatever came to me. Most of it, it was just a combination of things. And I had written one that I entitled The Color of Gray. And the first book that was published, after I tried several different titles, and the poem almost did not make it. I had so many to choose from, and that one was in one of my drawers, and at the last minute, I pulled that out, and it was like, you've got to include this one. And they told me to look back through my poems, that they felt like that I would find the title that I needed in those poems. And I went, thank you, Lord, this is it. And that poem is at the very end of my book. And after the book was put together, it came out in the news that in the medical field, there was a certain part of the brain, the gray matter turned gray. And I was like, I had no idea. But to me, it was like a cloudy part, a lot of questions, a lot of fog. What's going on? What's in his mind? And I was just amazed that that's what I went with. And it just seemed to fit.
Now, Polly, you've lived through incredibly complex experiences. How did your personal journey, whether as a caregiver or a loved one, shape the emotional tone of the book, especially when writing about living and dying with Alzheimer?
It was just a part of who I am. I really don't know how to put it in words except what was in my book. it was very difficult for me to share a lot of what is in my book. Most of it was every time I have to go back, even talking about it, it's like I'm reliving what I wrote. And there were many times that I would say, now God, are you sure I need to put this in there? And that's the type of relationship I have with God. It's like He doesn't talk to me the way you and I talk, but we have that connection. And I would wrestle with it. I don't know if I really need to put this in there. And it was like, over a period of time, yes, you do. Or some of this would not be in there. Because I shared a lot of difficult situations. And some people would say, well, that was personal. Yes, it was. But a lot of people go through the same situation, and it was like you need to let them know that they're not alone. So I put it in there.
You bravely addressed the difficult topic of types of abuse. Why was it absolutely essential for you to shine a light on this specific and often hidden crisis within the world of elder care?
There again, people have a tendency to shy away from any type of abuse. And as the years have progressed, I am so thankful that it is talked about more. I think sometimes people use it as, sometimes I have trouble with my words coming out, but it's so hidden. There is the physical abuse in marriages. There's physical abuse with children. There's physical abuse with the elderly people. And it's different. In marriages, it's usually where people can't see it. The clothes hide it. It's the emotional end of it. It shows through their mannerisms. With children, it's a lot the same, but most of the time it's on their arms, their legs. It can be on their faces, broken bones, and again, the emotional. And people turn their head. They don't want to see it. They don't know how to deal with it. We are not trained to deal with it. The teachers are becoming more aware of it. They could see it, but they didn't know what to do with it. So they just ignored it. But these children need someone to speak up for them. These elderly people need someone to speak up for them. They don't know how. They are afraid. Children are afraid. Abused wives are afraid. There's been so many times that they don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to trust. And this is true in all situations. The caregiver might turn against them. That might be the only person who provides their food. If I say anything about it, they may not feed me. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and it needs to be addressed.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, your chapter on sexual relations tackles a very sensitive private area. Now, what is the most important lesson you hope readers take away about preserving dignity and intimacy when a loved one is experiencing cognitive decline?
There again, it was like, oh, are you sure I need to put that in? People say, we don't need to be taught. Well, there are different avenues there. When I was younger, I felt the same way then as I do now. I feel like what goes on between a married couple should stay there. I don't think it needs to be broadcast. I don't think it needs to be shared with your coworkers, with your friends. And so many times in the workplace, somebody would come in and say, "Oh, you'll never believe what went on last night. My husband came home and we did so-and-so." I cannot imagine sharing that with people. That's too personal. It's like they want to brag about it. But if it's done in a loving way, that's not something to be shared with people. That's private. And then there's the flaunting of, "Look at what I did." It's like it's just a toy to be played with, and it shouldn't be. There's been too much laughter, too many jokes that goes on about sexual relations. And then as a couple gets older, there's a lot of pressure put on them that they need to perform the way they did when they were younger. And if they can't, what am I going to do? And they don't want to talk about it. And there again, if a marriage is what it should be, they should feel at ease, saying, I don't know what's going on. I might better go to the doctor. Something's not right. But they don't do it. They can't discuss it. They can't discuss it with their wife. They can't discuss it with the doctor. It creates a problem. This goes with both sexes. As a person becomes in the medical situation, things change. Doctors don't always share with their patients how to deal with this. And there's a lot of questions. In my book, I share some of what I have learned, and I'm very quick to say I am not a doctor. This is just things I have learned over the years. I give them somewhere to go to read it. This is a personal choice. It's not something that I'm saying you have to do. That's up to their discretion. But so many people do not know where to seek advice. There's always their pastor, a counselor. Most insurances will pay for that type of thing. But now with someone with Alzheimer's, it's different. There comes a time, and it's also in any life, that it's no longer okay. They can't perform the way they did when they were younger. But I feel like as a couple, as they get older, and I notice this with parents, and a lot of people do not know, they don't have that. But the touching, the caresses, the hugging, the pat on the shoulder, the arm, the look in their eyes, the kiss on the cheek, the snuggle, they have something to share. So it's not as important that you have the way you did when you were younger. And things change. And I think we need to learn that it's different. And so much pressure is put on married couples. So much pressure is put on the women that it's like you have to stay slender, you have to weigh a certain amount, you have to look a certain way, and it's flaunted, it's put out there everywhere. And most women are not built that way. Men, it's like the men are supposed to look the way they did when they were younger. I feel like men and women both should try to stay clean. They need to try to protect their physical being as well as they can, exercise, listen to the doctors. But at the same time, nobody is going to stay a number 10. And I think everybody needs to realize that. But that's just me.
Thank you, Polly, for being yes, with all your experiences, the wisdom that you had shared with us today. It's so blessed that you have shared your experiences, though it is way hurtful in some way because it brings back memories. I know how it feels to recall those memories, having those sad memories resurfaced again. I know that feeling, but still you have the courage to share it with us as a takeaway for your book. And in that relation, many readers have said your book feels raw and honest. Was the writing process have a somewhat like a therapy for you, or did you have a routine or any ritual that helped you stay grounded while revisiting painful memories?
The putting it on paper, and this is for anyone, there's just something about writing it, getting it out, is therapeutic. I didn't know that. I learned that, and then I was told that. But writing my poetry that I share in my book, if people say, oh, I don't like to read poetry, I don't like poetry, there are different types of poems. It's pronounced it differently. What I put on paper, you don't have to try to figure out what I'm trying to say. It's there. It came from the heart. I mean, some of it had to be put on paper. And it's part of my story. I know one of the earlier in my writings, this one was written back in March of 1995, if I could share that with you. Something's amiss. Where are you? Where have you gone? Why have you left me here all alone? Night after night you leave me this way. It leaves me so empty, I don't know what to say. What did I do to be treated like this? When we first met, it was such wonderful bliss. Everything could be solved with a kiss. In my heart, I can tell something's amiss. What could be more important than us being together? Is love like living through stormy weather? My heart is lonely without you. I'm reaching out for you, and you're no longer there. You have slipped away again into your own little world. Where have you gone? What do you see? What do you feel? Do you want everything to be quiet and still? What's in your mind? What are you thinking? You look straight ahead without even blinking. Do you have pain anywhere? And do you really care? Are there things you can't face in the real world? Are your thoughts in such a turmoil that from true life you have recoiled? You have left me out in the cold for so long. Sometimes it's so hard to hang on to what we once had. And for me, that's rather sad. There's a lot in those words that as time went on, I got the answers I was looking for in ways that I never dreamed of. And as you read my book, you'll understand that I didn't have a clue when I wrote that, but it unfolds. And then around the same time period, I wrote The Elusive Butterfly. The butterfly emerges from its chrysalis and tries out newfound wings. Each butterfly is so unique. It reminds me of a rainbow when the colors are at their peak, like the gold at the end of the rainbow. When you try to catch it, it's so elusive. When you try to catch one, I'm repeating myself. When you try to catch one, it's so elusive. 1 minute it's there, and then it's gone, leaving you wondering what's going on. Have you ever watched a child chase after a butterfly? The air is filled with laughter for the unattainable, but she still tries. Has nothing at all to do with Alzheimer's, but that was my thoughts at that particular moment. When I actually start into the story part, Ken stood quietly, watching the neighbor's new white kitten. as she frolicked amongst the leaves with the 9-year-old calico cat. There was a look of bewilderment upon Kent's face as he asked, "When did Jill get the calico cat?" When I heard this, chills ran up and down my spine. Why did he not recognize the calico which he had known for so long? The feelings that I had kept rejecting now refused to be ignored. I finally had to admit that something terrible was wrong. Thus began our long and painful journey of living with this yet undiagnosed monster called Alzheimer's.
It's so sad just hearing you sigh those words. My heart felt so heavy. I felt your emotions as you read those words, as if you're longing for someone you meant, however, it's not meant to be. So it's a complexing word, and it felt so raw for me, Polly. And now, for others who might be starting their writing journey in life, how do you approach the craft of writing? Did you have a specific daily routine, or did you write when emotion or memory moved you?
A combination of both. I found myself, as I said before, I'd write the poetry going down the road, but as time went and I had so much I needed to get out, I was writing after I got in the office, before time to punch in. I was writing at lunchtime. It was just my life. It took over. I didn't have time for anything else. And I had to get it on paper, and I couldn't do it when I was in Ken's presence, and it was difficult. Once he was placed in the assisted living and the nursing home, I would still do it on my breaks and my lunch and at night after I got home. If I had a thought or if something happened to me, I carried a piece of paper with me everywhere I went and a pen, and I would just write.
Okay. Now, Polly, have you heard from readers who saw themselves your story, or what kind of responses have moved you the most since publishing your book?
It's been a struggle. I took writing classes after Ken was placed. Well, now, I take that back. I was interested in writing. I didn't realize it. Looking back at some of the things that I did earlier in my life as a child, I thought, I never thought about being a writer. I never thought about what I might do with words. And looking back, see, I'm from the old school. Children now have counselors at school. They take tests to see what they might be good at doing, what their interest might be, if it was challenged, if it was fed. But we didn't have that when I was in school. And I can remember specifically, it was in literature, the teacher had read a poem. I don't remember who wrote it, but she said, does anyone in the class have an idea of what this person was trying to say? Now, you would have had to know me back then. I was shy. I always sat behind somebody. I was little. I was the smallest person in the class, and I would sit behind, about anybody, that I could hide behind them. I didn't want anybody to know I was there. But that particular time, I raised my hand up. I knew exactly what that poet was saying. And the teacher pointed me out. Okay, Polly, what do you think she's trying to say? I shared what I thought. She said, no, that's not right. And then she proceeded to read what someone else had thought she said. I crawled back in my little shell. I never came back out. I was afraid to say anything about what I thought about anything in public. It was wrong. As I got older and I learned that people did write, I was interested when I got out of school. and I took some classes at one of the local colleges at night while we were married in our earlier years. And then after Ken was placed in the assisted living, and the doctor said, Paul, you need to do something other than grieve. You need to do something for Polly. So I signed up for some writing classes. It was interesting. I wanted to know, I wanted to learn, and I listened. But there again, in one of my college classes, the teacher had asked us to write a poem about a tree. And I was so excited. It was a certain type of tree. I don't even remember now what it was. I still have the poem. It was a great big long name. I got my encyclopedia out. I studied what that word meant. And it was exciting. It was interesting. Because I didn't know that it was about the rubber, how the tree, the bark, and all this stuff. And I wrote a poem about it. And I was so excited. Well, when we got back in class, and we all had to read our poems, some of them she just oohed and awed over, and I read mine, and I thought, ooh, I'm interested in what she thinks of mine. And she laughed. She said, that's not what I wanted. Well, how did I know what she wanted? But I thought, well, I guess I don't know anything about writing. And I wrote a poem about this little girl who had autism. I didn't know anything about autism. I just make her little sounds, and I put those thoughts on paper. I had it put on a plaque and gave it to her for Christmas. Of course, it didn't matter to her, but her mother seemed to like it. Well, on down the road, her mother and I had a disagreement about something. And she says, and you think you can write poetry, but you don't know a thing about writing poetry. Okay.
Now, Polly, if someone listening today is caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or has just received a diagnosis, what piece of advice or comfort would you want to offer them?
When Ken was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I went to the library. I went to Barnes & Noble. I lived in there trying to get to write books. I bought books. I read books. I actually really, going back before he was ever diagnosed, I bought books trying to figure out what was wrong with him. I had just about figured out a lot of it. I didn't know the medical end of it as far as the Alzheimer's bit, but I was beginning to connect the dots, but I didn't know enough to do that. But when I was actually told what it was, I was like, I need to know more. What do I need to do to help him? What do I need? There's so many questions and no answers. They don't hand you a book just like with a baby, they don't hand you a book on how to raise a child. I was just like in a desert. But the Alzheimer's Association, after a certain period of time, sent to me this humongous thick book. And I remember I was small at that time, and I thought, wow, did they expect me to read that whole thing and memorize it? I just can't do it. And that's when I went to, I was already going to Barnes & Noble trying to find books on Alzheimer's. Everything that I found was like it was sugar-coated. It wasn't giving me the answers I needed. So that was part of why I felt the need to write my book. I didn't sugarcoat it. I wrote it as it was. I just shared what I did, what we did, things that actually happened, and things that I did, not necessarily what another caregiver should do, but it was to let them know that that's what happened to me and to Ken.
So what piece of advice would you give to someone who had shared the same situation that you have with Ken?
Don't give up. Put your arms around that person. Fight for them. Fight for what you feel. Don't let somebody else tell you it's not happening. If you crawl in a shell and say, I don't want to know, it's going to be harder on you. I've learned this in some of my presentations. caregivers would be in denial. A lot of family members are in denial. A lot of friends are in denial. But somebody has to take responsibility, and that falls on the caregiver. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go for counseling. Don't be afraid to bring things out in the open. Ask questions. Be strong. If you give in to it, you'll fold up. And that happens a lot. And that's okay if you hurt, if you cry. Somewhere along the way I learned that, and I read that you don't need to cry in front of the individual. You don't need to let them know that you're upset, that you're angry. That's very difficult. But you do that for that person, and then you let go of your grief and your anger when you're not right in front of them. You do it when you go in the bathroom, when you go in another room, when you walk outside, but not in front of them. And there again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just me.
Yes, we understand that one. Now, finally, Polly, looking back at your journey of writing, what has it taught you about yourself, about the human spirit that you didn't know before you began?
I am more outspoken now than I used to be. I have come out of my shell. I am more willing to fight for that person who can't fight for themselves. I've seen so much. It just breaks my heart to see. And I look at little children who has nobody, who are being mistreated, but we can't reach out and grab that child and say, "Don't you do that." It's none of your business. For the people like in Ken's condition, he couldn't tell people that he was hungry, that he was thirsty, that he needed help putting his clothes on. Somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to step in and take responsibility and help these people. And I say it in the nursing home. Oh, did I ever see it? But there's certain protocol you have to go through. You can't talk about it. You have to be careful. A lot of stuff. But those individuals cannot speak out for themselves. And if the systems that we have now don't take a stand, if the people who see it don't take a stand, if the people who are involved don't say, "I'm going to do it right," those poor individuals are the ones who suffer. So I'm just, I said, I'm not as shy as I used to be. The color of gray are your eyes as you stand with such a confused look on your face, with no one near to help you escape. In this photograph of you in my mind, you are wearing your blue and gray jacket that matches your eyes and is faded with age. Your eyes that were once blue now are gray. There is a jagged hole torn in the elbow of the jacket that you has molded to the shape of your body and has grown old with you. Each time I come in contact with these soft, warm, comfortable cloth, it has an aroma of tobacco smoke. As your life comes to an end, the confused look will go away. Your eyes will again turn peaceful blue and will no longer be the color of gray.
Wow. So that's why you named your book The Color of Gray. It's so heartwarming.
I still have that jacket.
Wow. It's nice. Now, that is a truly beautiful note to end. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your commitment, and telling your story with us. Now, the book entitled The Color of Gray, Living and Dying with Alzheimer's, Types of Abuse and Sexual Relations. You can find it anywhere where the books are sold. To all our listeners, please do check out the book of Polly Lynch Spainhour. Now, her powerful voice was awakened so many people, and we encourage you to read her book. As again, you can find her books to any bookstores You can also find it in online. Her book is such a beautiful book wherein you can get encouragement. And if you are struggling with any issues that we have discussed today, please do check out or seek out local resources and support groups. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Writer's Way. Polly, thank you so much for being with us, and we are so much blessed for your wisdom that you have shared to us today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Now, once again, this is your host, Jessica Wilkins, and join us again soon for another heartfelt conversation. Until next time, stay inspired and keep reading. Bye for now, everyone.